Alright, in this clip we're going to look specifically at the reports and some of the features that are available. So we're on the dashboard, we're going to come at the top where we see reports, and it'll direct us to a different interface. Now I'm going to briefly go by each one, but I will point out some of the reports that I prefer to look at most. So from here we look at the users report, and this is a quick little snapshot, very similar to the dashboard will give us, but this will tell you a little bit more details in terms of what is the average amount of time students are spending, what is the average amount of lessons they're completing, how many lessons they are averaging, and then whether or not they are logging in. And we're always looking at the time. So it does snapshot for this current month. You could always adjust through your calendar what time you're wanting to look at. Now, if you're teaching multiple grade levels and or multiple sections or periods, from this drop down, you should be able to toggle in and amongst your various grade levels or periods. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this. Let's move over to the predictive insights. Now these do update weekly on Sunday, and every time your students are completing a certain number of lessons, this will adjust to what they do are showing. Now if you are getting the message, I'm going to zoom down right here, where you're seeing whether they are not on track, insufficient usage, or on track, just a quick refresher, the idea is that they must complete at least 12 lessons over a span of 6 weeks for them to be able to indicate that they have been meeting whatever their goal is. Now, if their students are on track, it is telling you how many lessons this student does need to achieve. So while we know that 5 lessons is what the platform suggests, if students are not on track in this example, they are needing to complete an additional number of lessons per week. So this student needs to average more than 12 lessons to be able to be considered on track in the system. Now, if you're insufficient usage, that's because they haven't been able to generate a prediction. And remember, they do need to complete at least 12 lessons over a span of 6 weeks for them to be able to generate a prediction for them. And then those predictions are going to update weekly. I'm going to go ahead and close this report. I'm going to come down to where it says assignment history. Here's where you're going to be able to see whether or not you had or had not assigned anything to your students. So I'm going to select on this. The assignment history is also where you have the ability to cancel or remove an assignment. So here, because we are looking at this particular sample, which has the NWEA, the way that is assigned is individually. So each student assignment looks separate, because even though I did assign the same in terms of, yes, I was basing it on their NWA assignments, or their progress rather, on the platform, it's generating, depending upon their score, an individual assignment. We'll shift over and look at one where there is a whole group assignment that the teacher provided to the entire class, and then you'll see how we can chart the progress. Now, before I leave here, I do want to point out that you can look at the details for the student in terms of have they completed, have they been successful on this, by clicking on this view. In this example, the student hadn't yet started. So in this sample we're looking at here, we can see this is one assignment that is generated for the entire class. We can see whether it was a short-term or long-term assignment. And then if we look right here, you have the ability to cancel this for all students. Now again, this is different than what we had seen initially, because that was individually for each student based on their NWA results. But here we're looking at an assignment that was intended for the entire class. Now clearly not all students are at the same place, but at the same time you're not able to drill down and remove or cancel this assignment for an individual student. You can, however, cancel it for the entire class. At the same time, you can still see how your students have performed on an assignment. I'm going to come up real fast. Report. Some other things we can look at from here. We can look at the activity feed. The activity feed is going to show us from the last 30 days where your students are at. You can play what the lesson was play by play. You could also see here, it tells you just a quick snapshot what your students are currently working on, which students are operating on this particular standard, and then any of the additional lessons that they may be on related to that particular one. You can scroll down and see each individual student's name in terms of what they've been doing, what they've been working on here. Let's come up and close that. Something else I wanted to point out is the ability for you to look at the proficiency by grade level and or standards. We'll come to standards first. We should be able to see by grade level in terms of what standards my students have been performing at, which ones they've been successful or more successful with. So right now this is a 4th grade sample class. I can come to 1st grade standards and see where some of my students are operating, 2nd grade, and I can come all the way to my grade level. Now you'll notice at the top we see percents. This is to indicate what percentage of your students are currently operating on those standards. So while this is a 4th grade class, we can see some of our students are operating beyond current grade level, And we have some of our students that are still working on progressing towards previous grade level standards. So for a look at grade 3, we can see that about 33% of my class has been successful with regards to that. And you can look at individual columns and see, and we see those real fast little color coding, green to indicate that they have demonstrated proficiency, and then the half shading of the circle is that they're in progress for that particular standard. If you came across any of these standards and you say, you know what, a bulk of my class is needing support with this, you could quickly click up here on this, and that would automatically be in the process of generating, and I'll do that now, an assignment for your students for that particular topic. I do not want to add that assignment, so I'm going to exit, but it already loaded for us. Again, quick way to say, hey, look, I see some things that my students may be needing extra support in by clicking on that little icon from the standards report. It will automatically go through the process of generating, and that's just by clicking up here on those little calendars, and those are for the short-term assignments. Close this report, and then the last one I wanted us to look at is proficiency by grade level. Just a quick way for us to get an idea of where my students are operating. This is a little bit less detailed in terms of the standards report, but it gives us a quick little snapshot in terms of where approximately by grade level are my students operating. So in this particular one, we can see it does zoom in for this current week. And right here, you can look at different options. You can look at the last 7 days, the last 30 days. I'm going to go with the last 30 days, so for the last month, so we can get an idea of where are my students at within the last month based on grade level, so that you can get a good idea of how either ahead or potentially how much more work your students need based on where the assignments they've been completing and the grade level that they are operating currently on. Close that report, and that's it. There is far more information here really that we can dig into, but the probably two best recommendations I would suggest, one and first and foremost might be the usage report, just to get an idea of what we're doing, and then the next one would probably be the assignment history for those of you that are creating assignments, so you can get a good idea of how have they performed, where are they currently at, and also if you wanted to remove an assignment, that's where you would happen to do that. If you have any additional questions, let us know. We want to be a resource for you. Thanks so much.